Welcome to Decide Your Destiny. I'm your host, Josh Jacobs, and I'm really excited for the show today. We have a very special guest. From humble beginnings, he started his company with $25,000 and grew it to a $1 billion valuation. He's built a real estate portfolio worth $400 million. He received the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award and has recently started blessing the social media world with his positive mental attitude. Please welcome Bobby Castro. Thank you so much for being here today, Bobby. I am so excited to have you, man. Thank you.
Well, thank you, man. Very, very nice of you. I mean, out of all the podcasts I've done, I haven't heard that the Ernst & Young that in 2012 that was a true honor, and believe it or not, I had no idea of actually being so blessed to have that recognition. And it just shows you when you're so focused and so passionate about your minutes, you feel like some may feel like you're missing out, but you're not, because years later, life does reward you, man. So thanks for mentioning that.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome. And we'll get into all that, but let's start from the beginning. I've been fortunate enough to hear your story, and it's incredible. And I would love for the listeners to, understand that. So maybe tell me a little bit about your childhood. Where did you grow up? What was life like?
Yeah, so I was born in New York in the Bronx. My dad had me when he was 50. My dad, he passed when he was 94 years old. He was Puerto Rican. He was a mailman in the Bronx, and he had me when he was 50, and my mother was 27, and my mother is Irish and Jewish. And so I come with that whole DNA of a lot of, call it passion. So a lot of personalities in that mix. And we grew up struggling, no question about it. My dad was very, very passive, extremely kind, just a kind soul, not too motivated to accomplish a lot. But he had his own magic, that's for sure. And my mom, man, she was the pusher. She was the shover, and she was the one who told me I can be or do whatever I choose to do as long as I pay attention to value. And I became so obsessed with value because my mother, she raised me while she was a waitress. And before Denny's, it was a place called Sambo's. That's what it used to be called. And she worked a graveyard shift. This is when you and I would go out to a wedding or whatever, and a bunch of us would be at 4 a.m. at Denny's. That beautiful waitress, that was my mom. And she walked home thereafter. She didn't drive because there was no car. It was designed by, obviously to compensate the no car issue. Went home for a few hours, showered. She lived on the couch in our townhouse in Hialeah in Miami. I was born in the Bronx, and then as a peewee, we came to Miami, South Florida. And my dad left the post office. It didn't work out. And she raised us, man. And, I come from the hospitality life, and I see my mom struggle, and we grew up on Rent-A-Center. And when Rent-A-Center is still around, this means when you don't have money or the credit to acquire furniture, you'll rent a nightstand, a couch, a coffee table, a bed for your 3 boys, and pay every other week. And when you don't pay, they instantly pick it up. And I grew up seeing that pick up, deliver, re-pick up, my mom bouncing checks, lights, water out every other month. Amazing.
How old were you? How old were you?
Through.
This started from when you were very young.
Yeah, we were, we grew up in Section 8, government assistance, food stamps. We were on and off of that program, helping my mom out. My dad was there, but again, my dad took a little backseat on life, wasn't as motivated. He was maybe not comfortable with the situation, just maybe was used to that situation, but it bothered my mom, and it bothered me, obviously. And I used to say to myself, I don't like this. And this is where the PMA, positive mental attitude, came into play. And I left after the 9th grade. School wasn't for me. I didn't speak until I was nearly 7 years old. I was a real big introvert. I can't shut up now. The battery does not turn off. It's been like that for a number of years.
But you didn't speak till 7 years old.
Literally didn't speak. Very, very shy. Very shy. I wouldn't look at people in the eye like I'm looking at you. I didn't have the confidence. And I don't know what that's all about. I don't get fixated on that. A lot of people, dive deep in their life and I just figure out what I'm good at and focus at that. So I used to be not a difficult child, but I remember in elementary all the way to 9th grade, I used to have a lot of questions. I have a hard time even now comprehending things. So if you ask me something, I'll ask you maybe a few times to understand if I get it in different ways. And I used to frustrate teachers, I think, and the teachers would frustrate me because eventually in the school system, the public school system, they were just babysitting us, and they would just, that's it, enough of you, Castro. And I would get turned off. So one day I told my mom in ninth grade, Mom, school's not for me. She obviously knew it. Zero pushback. And I just started in the hospitality world, being a takeout order, busboy, toll waiter.
In ninth grade?
My first gig was at 14 years old. Even today, Josh, it's my wow moment. It was at Pasquale's on 57th Avenue in Hialeah, right walking there. It took me about 10 minutes to walk there. That was my first job at 14 years old. Back then, they were not allowed to hire you at 14 years old. Pasquale, who was the owner of the Italian restaurant, my mom worked for him for a number of years. She begged him. I drove my mom crazy. I'll never forget. We went to 49th Street in Hialeah, went to Payless, got my shoes, got a black belt, got some slacks from Kmart and a button-down white collar shirt. And that was the best takeout. It was, to this moment, I'll never forget. It was good. My mom lived on the couch. I used to iron her apron, me and my brother Eric, in our uniform, and it was just part of our life. You would go in my house, you will smell my mother's uniform of all restaurant grease. You know, she was round the clock, no exaggeration. She didn't even have a room. My father lived upstairs. My mom lived on the couch. And I see my mother, believe it or not, the value proposition she gave to her customers, because she really worked her tail off to get 18% gratuity by offering the best experience you can have. And she always was so nice. And even though she had the toughest days, most days she would smile. And I seen that growing up, and I picked up on it without actually knowing I was picking up on it. It just shows you the environments around us, how powerful they are. And that's where I really get where I do believe thanking you, you're welcome, how are you, pick up a piece of paper if you're walking by. It became habit for me because of my mother. And started my first business. My mom finally was able to buy a home after renting all her life. Beautiful couple gave owner financing to my mother, and she finally got it converted to a permanent mortgage. And there goes Bobby mortgaging my mom's house because I had an idea of wanting to open a janitorial cleaning service. And I did open it. I went to Okeechobee Road in Miami.
How old were you here?
How
old were you here?
Oh, dude, I must have been, I don't know, maybe 17 at that time.
And this was like your first entrepreneurial experience?
Before that, I used to paint houses around Miami, just knocking on doors and offering to paint for a ridiculous price where they couldn't say no. And I fell victim to that. And I'll get a little bit into that. I used to try to fast track success and completely came up empty and put me in tough spots. And and then I went to the cleaning service, and then I was striking out on the cleaning services for multiple reasons. I was a little too young, where people were asking me for certain insurance. I didn't have insurance. And finally, I went to 36th Street, Northwest 36th Street, next to the Miami High Light, at the Pink Pussycat. It was an adult establishment. I walked in because I was just knocking on any door that had a door. And sure enough, guess what, dude? They said yes. And so I started cleaning that place after hours, late at night. Very nice people, hassle-free. And I went to certain similar establishments, and they said yes. And it was pretty much a whole different environment, as you can imagine. And, and they thought it was, I guess, pretty cool to say yes to a young kid that really was looking for something. Well, that ended a little bit after that when an adult entertainer mentioned, how old is this kid? And just by bringing it up, it created some sort of, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. So I used that for an excuse to quit. I sold everything, and I'll never forget, I had about $249 mortgage payment to pay. Back then it was called a second mortgage, not a HELOC like today. And I'll never forget, I went to how I got that. I went to Miami Lakes, Florida. They had no internet back then. They used to have a flyer. I'll never forget his name because his name was pretty cool, Woody. And Woody actually entertained me going there and he says, yeah, your parents qualify for, I can get a second mortgage. And I lived with that payment for a long time. And then after that, it made massive mistakes, and Yeah.
So just to be clear, that mortgage was to start the janitorial company.
Yes.
Yes. And is that what you were doing at the adult entertainment centers, or were
yes,
you?
I was cleaning. I was cleaning the establishment after, everyone left. Way. I mean, 7 a.m. type of stuff, and along with all the other after-hour clubs, and but I quit after that because it just didn't go my way, and I quit a lot before that, and I always used to use the excuse for my circumstances, and blamed everything and anyone based on. I used to try to skip. Let me back up a little bit. This was no internet. I was addicted, literally addicted, to responding to classified ads. Anything that had a header, become a millionaire, make $100,000 next month, whatever the case may be, Bobby would go ahead and send away or call. You get the recording, mail me, give me my address. And 50 packages a week used to come up. And I used to just get so fixated on it. And I didn't understand. I had no information. I didn't understand this very important theme, the process. And when I say the process, Josh, A through Z, I used to be at negative A, like the alphabet, and trying to work on efforts like if I was on Z, had no relevance to the stage where I was at. I didn't understand that for many, many years, even as a young adult, until it hit me. And I'll tell you about the life changer when it hit me. And that was a battle that I just wanted to be rich. And it was all about money, this obsession. And I kept failing friggin' big. I mean, if I was a baseball player, which I was not, I was probably the worst baseball player. Couldn't even hit a softball. I mean, I was just so distracted.
Give us an example of one of those failures.
One failure was one of many, starting businesses and literally quitting on that and starting another business a week later.
So not even giving yourself more than 7 days.
I'm talking about extreme abuse. That's just abusive to your life. It's not healthy. You're just fooling yourself, and you're like a hamster on a wheel, thinking you're being productive and just because you're not getting, oh my God, just because I didn't get a sale in 24 hours on this industry stinks. I picked the wrong one. And I'm looking, what industry can I get into? What can I do? I was like that for many years. Like a lot of people are, they just don't realize that they are. And I finally figured I was really almost addicted to that when, fast forward, my wife, I was living with my in-laws, Pedro and Dixie, on Lejeune Road in 103rd Street, broke again. But this time, a lot of things were a little different. I had a baby girl. She's 29 years old today, Priscilla. She was about 2 years old. I was walking out of my in-laws, Pedro and Dixie's house, and my wife, Sophia, which will be married 30 years this October 6th, pulls up, and it was a beat-up car that wasn't even our car. Her parents gave it to us, bought it on Northwest 27th Avenue, buy here, pay here, just for us. No air conditioning, had the reverse fumes, meaning that it was dangerous even drive because you can smell the fumes coming in the car. She pulls up. She is peach red, but behind her in the car seat, Priscilla, my daughter, she was just drenched in sweat. Here in South Florida, it's humidity. And it was a wake-up call for me saying, that was my moment where I said, man, I got to get my crap together. I got to stop. What am I doing wrong? I'll never forget that. And I haven't thought about that for a long time until I got on social media. I've been asked, doing these podcasts, it starts hitting home on some of the stuff because for many years, I've been blasted away in my own world, being very focused. And sometimes when you're so focused, it's good and bad. The good is it comes with a tremendous amount of rewards that I'm blessed to say I have created along with Sophie. But I forget some of the struggle because I don't want to remember the struggle. But if I'm going to help people, I got to talk about the struggle. And that's where I said, man, I got to stop this. I have to go back to basics. I went to work at Rusty Pelican on Key Biscayne in Miami. And I got a job selling memberships for the Better Business Bureau. It was a new chapter in my life. I decided I was going to start at the stage where I was at. I was completely broke. I knew my weaknesses. I wanted to jump. I wanted to pre-pivot always. I couldn't help myself just because I see a Ferrari. Oh my God, he's so young. I can do it too. And all the blah, blah, blah. And it started there. It started there. I got my mom's people skills back. I started becoming humble, staying very grounded, very patient. There was many, many times I was going back to my old habits, but starting to listen to my beautiful wife saying, Bobby, man, control yourself. You could do this. You could do that. I'm telling you, I was bad. And today, man, because of all that, recognizing all that stuff, today we sit on a personal net worth of $300 million, never raised any capital, a portfolio of $400 million worth of apartments, never raised any capital, all penny by penny, sold a company for $1 billion valuation, no financing, no stock, no nothing. Before that, it was 2 other slices. The power of surrendering to your weaknesses and scaling with others that can subsidize those weaknesses. It took off, and then I took that beautiful obsession, the stuff that I talked horrible about, my habits. The habits came back only when I learned what I was doing wrong, what I do now. Then I switched all that power, all that fuel to the correct way. Then I went from A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. And it was very hard. Just like a lot of people are so distracted. Your minutes are non-refundable. Don't burn them like Bobby did. If I knew what I know now, I wouldn't be worth 300 million. I'd be worth 30 billion. And that's why I'm so passionate on social media, just telling people, and I'm so desperate with good intentions of just saying, don't you see it? Because I didn't see it because of distractions. When you're distracted, I'll give you a prime example. That company that I exited for $1 billion valuation, started the company with 0. Years later, and that was 19 years ago, by the way, and I exited June of last year, 2019. A couple years before that, 3 years before that, 5 years before that, somebody comes knocking, big institution, $20 billion institution or whatever. Hey, I want to invest 30%. I want to buy 30% of your company, just being a real passive investor. And I want to base it on $250 million valuation, and I want to wire $75 million in cash.
They came to you. You didn't seek this out.
No, pretty much it just surfaced.
Amazing. Okay.
We were totally focused on building our business, and sure enough, a reward comes your way without even expecting it. That's why I say, man, it's so important to stay focused. So, wow. So, of course, you entertain something like that, right?
Yeah.
So we entertained it. It closed. Money was transferred. I think you're saying, wow, are they out of their mind? Why would they do that? Well, you start going into bona fide content and you realize, good for them. They stole it. They stole it, Josh. The power of not knowing and knowing. Both forces are so powerful. Okay, good. So we're right here. All the focus for many years was here, thinking that we knew our stuff and we're building, we're creating, we're doing good in life. They bought it based on this. So we said, okay, we were distracted here. Put this down. Start paying attention to this, which we weren't paying attention to. 11 months later, we started knocking on the door. Hey, you have first right refusal. We appreciate you guys are awesome people. But you have first right refusal. We want to take 19% off the table, but still control and own 51% of our company. Great. We're going to take it. However, it's going to be based on $600 million valuation, not $250. Are you kidding me? 11 months ago, we bought it for $250. No, I understand. I got it. Well, it closed. 3 years later, more fuel, pay attention to what you're supposed to be paying attention to and not get distracted. I exited for $1 billion. It could have been 1.4, but the terms are so good. I settled at $1 billion. Sophie and I show you the power of getting distracted, thinking you're doing so good. You reach your full potential. You're the smartest dude in the world. And you were all along missing what you should be paying attention to.
That's unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy because just hearing it from you, listening to it almost sounds like the same process that took you from 0 to figuring out what works and starting the company is a similar process of when you went from 250 million to $1 billion. It just the realizing your weaknesses, the realizing what you're not focusing on. And it's really powerful to hear that.
And it's every stage. It's every stage. Even today, I find myself focused. See, you surrender so much to your weakness that you become aware of it. You don't try to fix it. It'll take a lifetime. You just got to be aware of it, fuel your strengths. Even today, I fall victim of getting distracted. I'm so fixated on non-refundable minutes. You would think I'm the most extreme focus I am, but I still fall victim to it. We all do at any stage. You can never stop growing in life. The more value you give your life, the more you increase value. I understand the power of valuation just based on the story I just gave you. Just think about what I said. All of us, even all these rock stars out there thinking they're doing so good, which they are. But are you really paying attention to what you should be paying attention to?
Yeah, I have to ask you, because I feel like a lot of people just doubt themselves throughout the whole process. I've heard that with people who have amazing net worths and amazing companies, and I've heard it from people who don't have that. So I'm curious what your experience is with doubting yourself and fighting through that, and how you've experienced it.
So I call it stuck, being stuck in life. Bobby Castro was stuck for many, many years. Okay, check this out. I had no money. I have zero. What do I have? I have nothing. Nothing. I was so wrong. I have me. I had to create value within me in order to receive value. And I am telling you, even today, I spend a solid 2 hours every morning on myself to make sure before I leave that front door, my mission is to seek value. But I want to make sure I give you more value than you give me. I'm not worried about the return. I've learned in life the return's going to come in massive waves. It will show up sooner or later. Just keep giving massive value. So a lot of people, Bobby, I'm broke. How do I get a break in life? I'm broke. Pay attention to you. Pay attention to your strengths. Fuel your strengths and stop skipping this process. And the process starts with you. Because at the end of the day, it ends with you. It had to start somewhere, and it starts with you.
That's amazing. I'm so happy you said that, because I know a ton of people are going to get value out of that. I'm going to ask you a little bit more on that in a second. But first, I just want to ask you about, one of the things you talk about all the time and on your website, and I see the shirts, is massive urgent action. And I just have to real quick share a personal story with you, because I took your advice and took massive urgent action. I've been thinking about starting a podcast for a long time, right? Since they changed my life. And 12 days ago, I decided to start this podcast. In 3 days, I named it, I got my art, I set up my website, and I reached out to 100 of my dream guests. And a week later, here we are. And I have 6 weeks worth of guests lined up. I have all these things. And just like you, every single step of the way, I felt stuck. I felt, oh, nobody's going to respond to me. It's been 6 hours. Oh, am I going to be able to make an interview work? All these things. And you just find when you force yourself into massive urgent action, that's how you learn the best. And that's how you have progress in your life. And I love that you talk about it.
I love that. And there's a good book, because Law of Attraction is powerful. The Secret. Read it. Don't listen to the audio. So check out this. So the massive urgent action came in because my minutes are so non-refundable. I got to maximize each minute like if there were 3 minutes. I try to get 3 days out of 1 day, because I just maximize and focus on a lot of minutes. When you and I, or any of us, including your viewers and listeners, when we go to the airport, forget about now because of the corona stuff, but when we go to an airport, good times or bad times, everyone is such on high alert at the airport. You become very mission driven, very focused. You take action. You're competitive, you're fighting. But imagine having that every day, just like you said. Don't overthink it. You just sometimes have to do it. And look at what you do. You put yourself in a position that you had no other choice but to take massive, urgent action.
Yes, absolutely. That's what it is. I put myself in the position where I have no other choice. Once you reach out to 100
people. And now your confidence, your people skills, your vibe, your energy, you become a magnet for opportunities.
Yeah. I love it, man. We only have a few minutes left. Unfortunately, there's so many questions I want to ask you. We're going to have to do this again. But one thing that I want to end on this, because once again, I get this question all the time, and it's something I know a lot of people need help with, of all ages. And it's, what do you tell someone who, like you, is feeling, I know we already talked about this, but someone who's feeling stuck right now, someone who just says, I'm lost. I don't know what I want to do in life. What would you tell that person if you ran into them and had a couple minutes? What would you tell them to do?
I'm going to tell them the same thing that exactly I did to myself. Reevaluate, have a look back in your last 24 hours. Just go back to your last 24 hours. Truly, with vulnerability, write them all down and find out what you did in the last 24 hours. You're going to see so much gap, so much. You were a hamster on the wheel. You thought you were doing something or going something. And what the reason you're stuck, you actually put yourself stuck. So go back. I don't care what stage you're at. I do this so much, even in my life right now. Go back to 24 hours. See what you missed, what you didn't do, how you were not affected, how you were not even given it friggin' effort. How many hours were you sitting there moaning and groaning to yourself? Now you got to be honest. But it's great when you're by yourself doing it, because we don't lie to ourselves when we're by ourselves. We lie when everyone else is around.
That's amazing advice. Thank you so much. Man, I really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming on the show.
Let me tell you, you're going to do good on getting great folks on your podcast. And the people I say yes to, I don't care if they started 11 days ago or 1 hour ago or 11 years ago. You were kind, polite, nice. You had great, fantastic energy. That is how entrepreneurs succeed. It's a different day and age now. That's why you got me on. That's why you will continue getting me on. That's why you're going to be very successful.
Man, thank you. I got goosebumps right now. Thank you so much, Bobby. Really, I really, really appreciate it, man.
Much love, dude. Thanks for having me.